What's up and welcome to Skill Diff, where we have not only differing skill sets, but vastly differing opinions. Where myself, the host, Dylan Sinnott, interacts with the beautiful Patrick Holifield. What'd you do this weekend, Pat?
Oh, went on a little adventure out of state, Texas.
Over the old big Lone Star State. What'd you do out there?
Yeah, well, it was a little gaming event known as DreamHack. Yeah, just tiny ones going on. Couple esports, couple bros.
Having a good time.
Hanging out, yep.
Yeah, in the end, DreamHack over the weekend ended up being over 60,000 attendees, 22 million hours of watch time through the esports. 12 total esports competed for prize pools over $2 million. It was a pretty big event.
It was. It was nice. I enjoyed my time there. It was fun, and yeah, there was a lot of people there.
But hopping into those esports, the biggest, the baddest, the most important one right now, Counter-Strike obviously was there. First things I want to hop into, being in person, being there to see it for yourself, the fans were electric. We had a lot of cheering. The Mongolz, somehow this was a home game for them. Everybody loved the Mongolz. Everybody hated everybody not the Mongolz. Even during the finals, still cheering for the Mongolz. There's also some other chants. Apex had some choice words for America a little while ago, so America had some choice words back. I think they said I love you, but it was weird because it didn't quite sound like that.
It did not.
But what was your biggest takeaway from the fans over the weekend?
It was very eccentric, you know. For it being like the first Counter-Strike tournament ever going to, I always seen online videos, watching majors and stuff at home. Like, you know, you could always see the crowd's very energetic for Counter-Strike. And to be able to experience it like in first person was pretty fantastic. And yeah, the Mongolz being the home team was not what I was expecting, because, you know, there's somebody here in the office that's always been a big fan of the Mongolz here and always cheering them on, and the rest of us not so much. But dude, I think he might be in the majority according to the DreamHack Texas, because everybody there was rooting for the Mongolz, no matter if they were going against Aura or if they were going against Mals, and if they would have went farther than that, it'd have been the same going against Vitality.
They were cheering for him in the finals.
Yeah. Even when it was Vitality and Mals, it was just like, let's go Mongolz. Yeah. And, you know, that's reminiscent of like TSM, obviously, we like to say, like cheering for TSM. They don't even play anymore. And the Vitality side was just funny because, yeah, I mean, Vitality, the dominant team, come out there. Apex did have some choice words for the Americans, and the Americans were letting him know how they felt about it, and they would not stop. And I tell you, and I'm a Vitality fan myself, but that was funny every single time they did it.
Yeah.
Never failed.
I mean, it was really impressive because he obviously handled like a champ. He played into it. He owned it up. He did say after the event, though, something along the lines of like, hey, I get it. It's been fun. Hope there's been no love lost, but can we maybe get a little cheers at the major? So I did think that was funny that he kind of was acknowledging it. It's impressive to me, though, because no matter who was playing, because we obviously got to see Vitality versus Falcons earlier in the tournament than we anticipated. But, I mean, there were some real funny signs about Nico and some others. There was an incredibly good piece of artwork about Nico's missed deagle shot on Cat in the major. Very, very well detailed. But the American fans are crazy. It's incredible because when you see the Europeans and you see the Australians, you always see the passion. You can hear them on TV, and it's so cool to see, like, hey, you can hear them chanting the whole times, but then to be there in person, it's a little bit of a different experience when it's like, oh yeah, this is what you hear on TV. It's this right here.
It was nonstop action and chanting the entire time. And even though Vitality was hated amongst the crowd, Vitality did once again come out victorious. Yep. Once again, their toughest match being in the semis versus Falcons, kind of a run over against Mals. But we're leading into the major now. It's coming up in Austin. And from the looks of it, it was a little close between Falcons and them. And maybe not for Mals, but is there any way that Mals, for one, could take on Vitality, or that Falcons could take down Vitality going into this major?
I mean, to me, the biggest thing right now is the way at which Vitality is playing is just incredible. And it's one of those, I don't want to disrespect any of those players and say that they're not S-tier players. It feels like they're all 5 balanced A players. And again, I think they're probably closer to S tier, but you know, when you put a lot of people in there, it doesn't feel like S tier anymore. But all 5 of their players are so incredibly good. I'm a big believer in that. I think Zywoo is a very talented opper, but you know, Rops has his moments, Flames has his moments, Apex is arguably the best IGL in the league right now. So when they're playing on their best, in my opinion, there is one team in the world right now that can beat them at their best, and that's Falcons. If both teams played at 100% and you got the best result out of them, It's probably going to be a 5-map, not at the major because it's only going to be best of 3, but normally it's going to be 5 maps. You're going to have overtimes. You're going to have close matches. It's going to be super, super close fought. But when you look at a Spirit, when you look at a Mongolz, which is kind of like that next tier of teams, like you need Vitality to play a little bad. You need them to not be on their A game, to be just a little bit weaker, which arguably you would say that we saw early in the tournament. But I can't imagine a reality where right now, if Vitality is hitting on all cylinders, there's no way Donk and Shiro can carry that team. And I think similarly on the Mal side, I don't think that Brolin can make the calls that you need for it. They don't have the firepower, and if you take down Zywoo, then you have to take down Rops, then you have to take down Flames, then you have to deal with Apexes on rotation, and it's like, it just feels overwhelming for any team that isn't Falcons right now. So going into the major, I want to see a reality where they're competed. They might throw a bad series against a bad team, because they did look shaky at the beginning of this. It looks like maybe fatigue or maybe just lack of focus is setting in, but man, they are good. Man, it's going to be hard to beat them.
It truly is going to be hard to beat them, and I think that's what makes them so much better is because they do have that full 5-star roster of all good players, because like the Falcons, while they do have fantastic talent, obviously the pickup of Mondesi has made them a lot better, but it's like Nico, hit or miss sometimes. Sometimes he's popping off, sometimes he's not. So it's like if you have to leave it down to Nico, he might not be able to finish out that 1v1 or 1v2, but you can't say necessarily the same for Vitality, because it's like you take out Zywoo and Robs, it's like you have Flames, you still have Mezzi, even Apex sometimes. He has his moments where he's slaying out. So it's like it doesn't matter who's alive on that team. Whoever you take out first, you have to face each one of them knowing that they are all high-skill, talented players. And you can't say that for Spirit, unfortunately, or for Mals, or for Falcons, or any of the teams that are beneath them. And so going into the major, it's like Vitality, it's like their only downfall right now seems like it will be themselves. Outplaying themselves, or not taking something serious enough, and then just losing some maps. Because as we saw, Falcons, that was close. That was a 13-11 game, coming down to some incredibly close moments. Like all it needed was one additional round of Falcons earlier on, and that's it. But it can be the same for Vitality, because they went up 6-0 right off the rip and then threw 6 rounds right after that. So it's like this constant back and forth shows that like Falcons, easy adjustments, they can take them down. That's really about the only one that I potentially see.
Yeah, and as we look into this major, you've got to assume that Vitality are heavy, heavy favorites. The question is, who is the best of the rest and who's going to get to play them? But the major is going to be broken up into a few phases. There's going to be stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Stage 1 arguably is going to be the most chaotic. But when you look through this, is there any other teams that we should be looking out for that aren't Vitality, that aren't Falcons? Like, do you think anybody else has a chance, or do you think it's a 2-horse race and everybody else is just showing up?
It's a difficult one, because it's not like I don't want to say they necessarily don't have a chance. Realistically, a lot of them down there, probably will not be able to win a BO5 series against Vitality. But there are a couple teams that definitely could stand against them. Mongolz obviously being one, sitting usually right there around the fifth place spot in the rankings. And they could easily, on their good days, they could probably stand a chance against Vitality. Same with maybe like a Team Liquid. If Na'Vi was actually playing good, it'd be that same. Gamer Legion actually is performing very well, so that's another one that could potentially sneak up in there. But at the end of the day, I think Vitality, even not Vitality, if we're looking at like Falcons, I think Falcons are way better than them. It really is just like you got your top 4, and you got this 5th place who's like pretty close and could maybe get into that 4th, and then after that, it's a little chaotic. And I think that's what will make the first stages and stuff fun, is because those games will be close. They will be exciting. You never know who's going to take it. You might see some exciting ones be able to sneak out. Complexity, they made a run not too long ago, so it's like something like that could be really cool or exciting. But unfortunately, we're probably going to see the same thing we've been seeing, which is going to be Vikings, Vitality, Mals, Spirit.
Maybe a little phase up action, you know what I'm
saying? I don't know. Maybe
it could be exciting.
If their boot camp goes well, it's definitely a possibility with Mr. Simple on the team.
I do think that with a little bit more time and rain, like that team didn't look bad, especially for as little bit of time that they had. And it would be impossible to say Simple's back, but there were moments when you're like, that's the guy. Like, he's still there. I don't know how much is still there. I don't know how much is left in the tank. I don't know if he can put it together for a whole tournament run. But if he could, if he could capture a little bit of lightning in a bottle, we've seen him fill in a major, and it's been unbelievable before. To me, the big X factor to look out for is for sure Spirit. I mean, it's weird to say that Spirit is the dark horse of an event. But the way they boot camp, they try not to fatigue themselves, which is an interesting strat. I know Donk just wants to play, but seemingly his teammates don't really want that. And with the best of 3 format, I think that's a pretty big disadvantage to Spirit versus the field. But I think it's an advantage to them versus a Vitality versus a Falcons, because realistically, if any player on any team in the world can come out and punch you in the mouth on Dust 2, it's going to be Donk. If you give him the T side, you let him cause chaos, you let him entry, he can take a map off and rip one. And if he rips one, then depending on the momentum, how you recover, how you handle it, it's possible he could get 2. Whereas I think Vitality are so poised. It's so hard for you to get 3 of them off of them. And that's where I think the Vitality versus Falcons comes down to, arguably, I think the Falcons have a better coaching staff, and it seems like they have better strategies, just worse people to execute it. When you look at the top 20 players in the world right now on HLTV, I'm pretty sure every Vitality player is on the list. And then for the Falcon side, you have Mondesi obviously at like 2 or 3, and then you have Nico's up there, but then you have nobody else on that roster. Tessus has got to be close at times. Tessus has been playing incredible. But, you look on the Spirit side, you've got Donk at number 1, which is totally fine. But then after that, you have Shiro, who's up there, but then that's the end of the road. And it's like, I think Chopper makes great calls on pistol rounds, but it's going to be hard to string that together. It's going to be hard to make that run. I do hope we get to see something exciting like the Faze, and it's going to be fun no matter what, but I just hope the games are close, because right now, like you said, it feels like it's a 2-horse race. They're leaving the field. They kind of left the stable, and we're hoping everybody else catches up.
Yeah, that is the unfortunate part, but at least if they are going to make it a 2-horse race, Vitality and Falcons have been making it very interesting
100%.
At least.
Totally.
So DreamHack, obviously it's over. We had a fun time. It's cool having the 3 esports together, but man, was it confusing.
It was.
So they had this badge system, and they had different seating, and your badges got you into this seating. You needed another badge to get into this one. You had to pay more for this to get into this seating. Unless you're Faze Clan. They got to go all the way up to the front row. Staff brought them out their own special row. And that upset some Optic fans.
It did.
Classic battle.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting situation across the board. I mean, to me, the biggest takeaway from this is, one, it's a complex system, because, obviously, tickets are never the easiest thing in the world. When you think you buy tickets to an event, you think you buy tickets to an event. This isn't the case. We were fortunate enough to be given VIP access to the event, but that wasn't VIP access to every part of every piece of the event. You had to have specific ones for specific areas and specific things, and we obviously didn't even look at tickets or how they worked, so when we got there, we were peak confused. But I think most of the people who did purchase tickets also were still in the same boat. They had issues with ticketing. Sometimes the badges wouldn't scan, so it was overall a little bit of a clumsy process. But I think it's compounded by the fact of, specifically when it comes to Call of Duty, you have fans who will get there as early as they can on Friday. They will sit in the front rows. They are all Optic fans, and the green wall is insanely strong. And those green wall fans will sit there and hold their spots, wait for big matches. The problem with that is when the big match is versus Faze, and then you have the OG Faze guys come in like Temper, Kaisan, Apex, and all those guys, you obviously want those people to sit in the front. You want those people to interact. You want those people to be on camera. So the event staff put chairs in the front, blocked the Optic fans. Optic fans were not happy. I do think it leads a lot to the, I think Puckett said it really well. I think Kaisan also said it pretty well. It's like, at the end of the day, VIP stands for very important person. The people who were at the front of that stage were very important. Those are arguably the reason that people were watching Call of Duty in the first place. They made the sport big enough. They made the game big enough. They made it very, very popular. So you want those people to be there. They help grow it. Same thing with Simple when it comes to the views that he brings. Those things help the sports, so you do want those elements. We saw it as well in the Counter-Strike, to where on the front row, they were reserved for family member of players, or reserved for media and those things. People were just sitting in those seats. And they didn't do necessarily a good job of policing that either. And that's really unfortunate, because, if you got some player's mom or the media person or whoever you want sitting there and they're unable to do so, it just makes the thing overall inconvenient. I do think a lot of that comes back down to messaging from the organizer. They could totally do a better job of that, but it's tough because, you were there. Some of the seats are good. Some of the seats are bad. So it just feels like the communication piece was tough.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm a little indifferent to them because like I feel like obviously people like that and Faze Apex and such are important, and it's important for them to be towards the front and like, you know, because they do draw interactions and stuff like that, and obviously they are the foundation of these things, so they're important. But I feel like that's something that the tournament organizers should have accommodated for ahead of time, already having a spot that is specific for that. I mean, obviously you had the watch parties going on with like Scump and stuff. They had their special areas, which that's obviously organized. That's where this was probably more like, hey, we're just showing up to the event. Sure. You know, maybe it's planned, maybe it's not, but it's one of those things of like, yeah, VIP, very important person. Those people are the fans, maybe necessarily aren't, but I mean, they're the ones paying, they're the ones giving money, they're the ones doing this or that, and they paid for those spots. Whether we want to or not, it's like they paid to be there. They got there early. They did everything right, and somebody just gets to come along and sit in front of them because of status. I see why they're upset. I completely understand, and that's why I think it mainly does fall on the TO side of like, it's like, hey, we got these important people. Okay, maybe we can get them something special over here or something like. I mean, come on, like maybe they don't need just regular chairs in front. If we really want to make them special, why don't we get them a little couch over here or something nicer than just like the standard old seats that everybody's sitting in? Because like what they had probably wasn't the best seats in the house for Call of Duty, because Call of Duty, unfortunately, the way they had it set up was hard to watch anyway, unless you were like in the middle. It's like being in a theater. You didn't want to be too close. You didn't want to be too far away. And the same for CS Counter-Strike. You know, those reserve seats were probably pretty decent. They were right in front of where we got the Civil War. Said it's like you had an angle down low, TV up here. You can't see the small ones. It's like maybe but the couches behind us, that was probably a dope seat.
It's probably good.
Yeah, but that wasn't for family members.
Even the banister on the first day was super nice. I mean, and to me, that's the big thing is like, I don't fully get the complaint solely on the pretense of what do you think you're missing out on? Because of that moment, it's like, even if Faze Temper is, if you don't know this, he's like, I don't know, 6'3", 6'4". He's not a small guy. So if he's sitting in front of you, your default thought is, oh, he's going to be blocking my view. Well, the screen is straight up. So it's like, he's not preventing me from doing this in any capacity. I'm not sure. You might not be on camera as much, so maybe that's what you're after. Maybe you want the optic fans to be able to see you cheering. You're trying to motivate them and stuff like that. And that's where it's like, I just don't fully get what the problem of it is. I mean, I totally get what you're saying. It's tournament organizers could do a better job of this. I stand by your point on the CS side of like, we had the best seats in the house, but I would literally rather go in the lower bowl up top because that was a way better viewing experience than sitting down in the infield. Same thing with the media seats and same thing with the couch even. And so that's where it's weird to me. I do think, to me, the biggest issue is like the convolutedness of where you're going and what you're doing, because it's very odd that if you have a VIP for an event, there's sub-events in the event that those things are included on, and it's just not communicated the best. I think that I don't know what those tickets retail for. I'm going to assume they're more than the regular one. So if you're paying for more than the regular one, if you're getting a hoodie and a t-shirt and some other cool stuff, then sure, you're basically buying a swag bag. You're not a VIP person. I'm cool if we only give VIP status to the Faze Tempers, to the, you know, Jason Lakes and those other important people that are important to the space. Let them go where they want, do what they want, and do that. And then let people who are premium ticket holders have access to an area, but make it across the event, because it was pretty confusing. It was a little bit more annoying than it should have been.
Yeah, it definitely was, because it's like, just one final quick point on it is just like, because security just wasn't very good at the event anyway. So it's like, with the way they had it set up with the tickets, it's like so confusing, because it was, if you want to watch CS infield, it doesn't matter what badge you have. You had to go and buy this additional seating thing.
It had to be added to the lanyard that everybody has.
Yeah, but then the lines don't tell you what it's for. They even use stuff like VIP and premium intermix with each other, where our pass would work for that VIP but wasn't for another. And it's just, next time, there's always a next time to make it better.
You know what they did police well, though? Getting monsters out of the Call of Duty event.
Oh, dude.
That's where you're locked down. That was the foolproof plan. We cannot let monsters.
I need to check your bag, sir. Need to check your bag.
Yeah, that was crazy. But the next thing we want to hop into is still some DreamHack madness. There's a lot of really, really cool stuff at DreamHack. A lot of stuff that not a lot of people probably are privy to. So we kind of wanted to highlight that. The first thing is Halo had another major this year. It ended up being a really, really good major. One of our guys is a coach of Team Envious, so obviously we were a little bit jaded in our team selection there. But overall, what are your thoughts on the Halo Major?
Well, I've always loved Halo, and it's especially, of course, in like the Halo 2 and Halo 3 days was, its peak primeness, and it's kind of fell off since then, unfortunately. I do think the game's still great. I do think the esport is still great. It's an OG one that deserves to be around. But, yeah, I mean, the problem with that is like almost the same problem that like Counter-Strike has, but on a whole different volume level. There's like a couple teams that are really good, and then everybody else is kind of falling short.
Yeah.
And, when your game is already, unfortunately, has that low of a player base and doesn't have that many people supporting it, it's like something like that isn't as interesting because you see it when you go watch it live. If you're watching Optic Gaming, you're going to see a crowd there. There's a lot of people.
Yep.
But if you're watching someone like TSM or like Nick's, we're supporting Envy and stuff like that, you're going to have a lot of open seats. And that's unfortunate. But, they say the Optic fans are strong and they follow around and they go from event to event to make sure they were supporting each one. But it was fun. I mean, a lot of the games were close. Team Slayers were coming down to literally like 47-50. There was even one that tied in a Slayer, both going 50-50. They ended up playing 6 games in a best of 5, which is hilarious when you think about it.
Yeah.
And of course, congratulations to everybody, Nick, and the players. They did really well. They made an upset early on, which was exciting to watch. And it's things like that you normally don't hear about because you hear around the office around here. It's like those teams, it's just Shopify, it's just Optic, it's just this. Like none of these chances, there's no chance.
And those cats, went on to the lower bracket quick. I mean, it was one of those to where you had, I believe it was TSM and Envy playing for a top 3 spot. And then Shopify gets knocked out by Optic in, I think, like top 6. And then Optic ends up coming back, reversing, bracket resetting Faze and beating them. The games were incredibly close, like you said. Like, it was really, really good. It's also really good to see a game like that have such a... The community's definitely not growing. I do not think the player base is growing. I do not think anything about the game is growing. But what it has is insanely strong. Like, the stuff that LVT is doing with their co-broadcast is really, really good. They're getting to show off some of the open brackets as well as the alpha and, the side station games and whatnot. One of our guys, Eli, he cast for those, that crew over there. And it's a really cool experience because it does feel like an esport that has so much history and so much tenure in the industry, but it also feels far and away like the most approachable. Like you can talk to any of the players. It doesn't matter if they're on Optic. It doesn't matter who they are, but like everyone feels accessible. Everyone feels reachable. And that to me helps you become a bigger fan and a better fan because when you go to the other side, to the COD arena, or you go to the CS arena, you almost never see those pros out sitting with fans. You almost never see those pros out interacting with fans because, in the nicest way, they're kind of celebrities at this point. Whereas on the Halo side, it's not quite like that, which makes it feel small, makes it feel family, makes it feel grassroots. And, even LVT, they announced they're doing a LVT LAN. So and if this was done in Call of Duty, they'd probably sue you, but they're being allowed to run a pro league that is not the HCS league, but it's like a kind of a separate thing where they're doing invite thing. They'll have a big LAN at the end, big prize pool. So, I mean, shout out to those guys. That's an incredible thing that they're doing over there. But, again, also shout out to Halo for letting them do it, which is cool.
No, yeah, it's pretty cool that they are allowing them because, like, as much as 343 has done wrong and, messed that game up a little bit, they do a couple things good, and allowing the community to take control and do things for the esport is definitely one of the more positive things that they could have done. So DreamHack overall was a pretty fun experience, and as you said earlier, it's more grassroots and more MLG type days. We had all 3 games there, plus other things, StarCraft, chess, we had Overwatch there, tons of different things that were going on. So we talked about it a little bit on Buy or Sell, these old events. Like, what is your overall experience? Do you think DreamHack was a success? We should do more?
I think overall it was an absolute success. I mean, like we said at the beginning, I think it's 60,000 people attended the event, 22 million watch hours, 12 different esports competing. A huge, vendor row, if you will. I think there were 900 plus creators there, depending on the timing of the event. And that's everybody from Nadeshot to Tyler One to Esports World Cup chess qualifying. I mean, it was all over the place, which is really cool. It was really unique. You get a lot of people to cross experience it. I mean, and that's part of what we're trying to do here on GGN too, is trying to kind of help grow esports by showing everybody a little bit of everything. It is pretty different. I was talking to some of the guys and you over the weekend. It's like my first ever MLG event was in, I think, 2010. and it felt like the same amount of stuff just in one of the halls, like one of the tiny little rooms. So it was just such a smaller scale then. So it did feel really big and really spread out, because if you wanted to go from, like, when Optic ended up losing on the Call of Duty station, then you watched a literal horde of thousands of people start to migrate across an arena in not a small space. Like, I mean, it's probably like a 15, 20-minute walk to the other side. So, I mean, that stuff was really cool. You get a lot of unique experiences. There was even some Valorant there. Brawl Stars, which is a pretty cool little game. And it was also cool, too, because we mentioned Envy before. I got a chance to catch up with Hastro, and it's like he's watching his team, who inevitably went on to win in the Valorant event. And it's like, just seeing that, it's like we didn't really know that was going to be there. And then at the end, it's like seeing a name like Envy get their first kind of win back in Valorant. It's cool. Stuff like that is incredible. So I think there should be more of those. I do think you only want a few of those a year, not to dilute it. But the frequency is my biggest takeaway, because looking at how much of a thriving community Counter-Strike has, to me, it's content and it's frequency. You see those players a lot. You get to interact with those players a lot, whether it's you literally interact with them or you get to see them on Twitter and they're active and in interviews and stuff like that, and then they play a lot. Whereas you look at games like Valorant that feel a little bit more stale and stagnant. We talked about the streak for Vitality. If you want to beat that streak, if you're G2, you can't do it until next year if you start winning now. And that's crazy to think about. Whereas Vitality, it's like, you give them another month or two, they're going to be at 80.
Always got to throw in the Valorant shade right at the end there.
Just got to get it in.
Beautiful, beautiful. Nah, I think the event was really fun. It was cool. I never got to go to an MLG when I was younger. I always wanted to. I thought it was the coolest thing ever to have those games combined. And so now, as an adult going there, yeah, it was very exciting. It was cool to be able to go watch a match of Counter-Strike, then go see what's going on in Halo, go see what's going on in Call of Duty, chess, the Brawl Stars, like I said, World Championship going on, GeoGuessr Championship was going on there. So it's like anything you have the slightest interest in, you could just be walking by on that journey from one thing to another, stop, check it out for a couple minutes, maybe talk to somebody, see something cool, maybe get you into that community. As we talked about, like Halo, like you said, not growing as much. Like something like this could definitely be like a help of people just walking by from Counter-Strike, because they were pretty close to each other. Maybe some people stopping by and looking at it and be like, oh, actually, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Just like you always wanted. My only gripe was timing-wise was kind of unfortunate. Sure. A lot of times you had to sacrifice important games for one or another because their timings. I wish they could have been able, I know there's a set amount of time that you can have within a day for the venue, but I wish they would have separated a little bit more so that way you could enjoy the finals of this and the finals of that.
Yeah. At
least two, instead of having to join in mid-match, depending on how fast the game went over or not.
Yeah, because I mean, like those Optic finals, the whole area was full in Halo, so it's like you couldn't even, it was standing only.
Standing only, great for them. And the security was not the greatest there, which is another. Unfortunately, in today's age, it's like it's not good to have that. There's a lot of the people that were working there, no offense to them, were just kind of just seemed like they were there to be there. You could just walk by them, they wouldn't care. I mean, I made the observation early on of like you could just skip the metal detectors right here. Nobody's watching it. You could just walk right on through and nobody's going to say a word. Little things like that need to be tightened up because people are a little crazy nowadays.
Sure.
But other than that, venues, awesome. Buying stuff, great. It was awesome seeing all the stuff people made, all the little indie games, trying out some of those was dope.
Yeah.
Definitely should do more, and I'd be glad to go to some more.
To me, the last takeaway, though, is having open brackets feels good and feels nice. Seeing Halo have an open bracket, seeing Call of Duty have an open bracket, seeing amateurs get the opportunity to compete in a tournament. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit with Halo, but like having those events is so cool. And I think we need a lot more of those because that's where it's like me and you can go and compete in the Gears event if we want to do that for fun as coworkers. We don't have to try to compete to win a championship because realistically those guys are good. But that's a cool concept. I'm really glad that gets a chance to exist again now today. The next thing that we want to quickly hit on, though, is Call of Duty. And as you may notice, there was a lot of upsets in Call of Duty over the weekend at DreamHack. I am actually wearing an Optic shirt currently. One of us may or may not have said that Optic was not going to make champs. Well, it did. They did that. They're in champs now.
How you feel about that?
I mean, They played really well at the end. I mean, they had for me, a very surprising event. I mean, they played out of their mind for a little bit. They smacked up on the Ultra, made a good run. Ultra dropped out early, didn't look good. Surge, double bounce, didn't look good. So there's a lot of craziness. Thieves went through the losers bracket to win. Faze looked really good right until they didn't. What's your biggest takeaway from this event with Upset Central and everything that has happened?
Yeah, this one is a pretty tough one because it is a couple, because it's one, the Surge and Ultra just giving up and dropping out on this one. Like, congratulations, sure, you're still making champs, but it's like, yeah, the Surge double bounce was just crazy. They've been performing online. They've been performing in other lands, going all the way to the finals, all the way to the end. And it's like they just look sloppy out there. And that's what's so crazy, too, is like Optic on the other end who've just been doing bad constantly, online to land. Even after first picking up Mercury, still not quite being able to win every game, dropping the game to the lag mates, stuff like that. And then come into this, dominating. Maybe it's the crowd. Maybe it was having the green wall strong in the front there that made them play better. I mean, Mercury's did fantastic. Hook was doing fantastic. Everybody, Dashy made some plays. I think that's probably the biggest surprise and greatness out of the whole event. We got somebody here, Kepley, big Optic fan. He's excited, loves to rub it in our face that they finally do good. Sure. Do I think they're going to do good in champs? I think they'll do okay. I think they're going.
Yeah,
do I think they're going to win? Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get to the champs thing. But yeah, Surge, Beans for Ultra and Kleenex just had a terrible run. It did very bad. And I hope we don't get something like that going forward, because that's what made Call of Duty interesting in the first place, is when you have the multiple teams doing well. And right now, once again, it's just the Faze and LAT show. And right now, Faze isn't showing up, and we're going into champs. You've been dominating and leading the standings the whole way now, up until now, and now you drop, now you get second place. And we'll talk about how that's going to affect them here in a minute, but we don't need this to be a two-horse race, so I really need Surge and Ultra, and maybe Heretics step it up, make this close, maybe even Optic.
Yeah. I mean, the craziest thing to me is when you're picking on the Faze side of the world is this is the first time going into a champs in the CDL era that they are not the number one team. It's crazy. It's been 6 years. For 6 straight seasons, they've went in as the number one team. Now, the devil's advocate of that is in 6 straight seasons of being the number one team, they've got one ring to show for it. So I do think that this might favor them because, again, I'd mentioned this before Major 3. They go through spurts where it seems like they don't care, and you just hope they start caring before champs. Because last year they did the same thing. They stopped caring somehow, didn't win champs, and then went on to win Esports World Cup. So I do hope they wake up. I mean, they are more than capable of it. If Simp wants to go mental, Simp will go mental. I mean, the kid is unbelievable. If he wants to cut it on, he can cut it on. Celium looks incredible. That's my biggest takeaway is they just don't look confident. They don't look like themselves. They look checked out. So did the Ultra. The Surge, I don't think they showed up. I mean, I think it was a different team played in their spot. Maybe they got a Challengers team to come in or something like that. They did not look good at all. But Optic did look good. I mean, I think that Optic was a little bit fortunate in the teams that looked like they were playing. They weren't playing 100% of them, and it favors them. But, hey, they got the wins and they needed to get the wins. Unfortunately, Rocker couldn't get it done to sneak their way in. So all in all, I mean, to me, the biggest takeaway is FaZe looks shaky. Right now, I would say LAT is in the driver's seat. It's theirs to lose, and I think there's a very realistic chance they could lose it for themselves, but I do think it is them versus FaZe, which I don't want to watch in the finals. I hope that Ultra, Heretics, Surge, somebody can sneak in, but it's going to be hard. At least it's double elim.
Yep, not looking too good. Not looking too good for the other ones. The LAT and FaZe shows constantly reigns supreme. Yep. And speaking of LAT, one of their players, Scrap, got into a little bit of a scrap on the stage. I know you love this kind of stuff, but, they're just kind of in each other's face, is this something serious, silly? What do we think about this whole
I do think it's a little bit more hostile than it should be. I mean, I don't think that this is 100% foolproof, nobody's in the wrong here kind of thing. I think it's cool to talk crap. I think it's cool to get in each other's face, yell at each other, do a little bit. I think when it starts getting physical, it's a little bit like, man, y'all had to make so many mistakes to get here. Because it's even, at one point, the super TLDR of the situation is after the game, they're talking crap to one another. Scrap doesn't appreciate the talking crap because the Heretics beat them, knocked the LA Thieves down to loser's bracket. Scrap gave him a little bit of a hand gesture, if you will, and then a little bit of a forceful knuckle bump. So the hand gesture then came back, hit him in the face. Didn't love that. Kind of grabbed him by the collar, and it's like, I think the punching of the hand and knuckle bump or not seemed a little aggressive. You could have done something way funnier there. If you're going to be childish, have fun with it. It just felt like it got kind of more serious than it should. I do like the emotions. I do like the passion behind it, so I think that's all good. And at the end of the day, people on Twitter are talking about it. We're obviously still talking about it, so if anything, it's good for Call of Duty. You do want a little bit of that tenacity, but you want those guys to feel it. You want those guys to be after each other. And then what happened when LA Thieves came back out?
They won.
They smacked
Dominated.
them. They smacked them.
Yes.
They said, talk smack, get hit, bro. Like, we're setting you down tonight. So it's one of those, like, that's kind of what you want to see respond. I'm honestly disappointed the Heretics. It's like, dude, if you're going to talk that talk, back it up. Like, you can't talk that talk and then get punched in the mouth. And it's like, nah, it's cool. You roll on, bro. I don't want this. That's how I felt.
No, it's understandable. And the Heretics have been doing great. So it's like, basically, they have been backing it up into that point. But I'm kind of like in the same boat. It's like, when it gets to any sort of like physical thing, it's like, yeah, we're starting to cross a little bit of a line there, because like we like to see trash talk. It's all about having good fun, whether that be telling somebody they suck, using other words, whatever it may be, across the stage one another and get your team hype and get you hyped. Maybe it's a mental game with your opponents to get them down. Sometimes it's the opposite and you just make them stronger and then they come back and get you.
Especially if the name's Apex.
Yeah, we've seen that on the Counter-Strike side. But yeah, it's just, when it gets to that point, it's just childish. And, a scene that I used to love a whole lot, Gears of War, pretty known for this. They love to do stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And where's that scene right now? Dead.
Yeah.
Right? And, I'm not saying that is 100% the reason, but I'm sure that probably that has something to do with it when people can't control their rage to whatever it means. Because it's one thing to talk trash for the sport, for your team, to just play mental games. And it's another to talk trash because you want to get physical or fight somebody, or you don't like that guy on that team, or you're egotistical in a way that you just think you're just better than everybody else. And some people sometimes say that about Scrap, but that's part of like his personality of like, that is who he is. You want that like hot-tempered young person who's out there to make a name for himself, and he's not going to let anybody get in his way. But yeah, this is a little silly, a little too much.
I mean, it's one of those, they got the 1 seed right now. They can talk all the crap they want. They're kings of the world. As we look forward, though, we've got the champs locked bracket set. What are you looking forward to in this bracket? What sticks out to you? Like, is there any team you think got an easy run, or any team got kind of shafted? What do you think?
Well, I mean, it was good in a sense that Optic didn't finish 8th like we thought, and they get to come in 7th.
So they don't play Thieves.
By being 7th, that doesn't really help them out any better than being 8th. You're still going to have to do your best. I think Surge, unfortunately, going down to 4th makes it a little bit more difficult for them because, like I said, Heretics have been looking pretty strong. Ultra claiming the 3rd spot, which is nice for them. I think that's going to give them a pretty decent run to be able to go in, which is good for Beans and Joey and them, because I think they are definitely a top team. I know you believe the same.
100%.
So it's awesome for them. LAT finishing 1st, fantastic, it's great. I mean, obviously that's the team that I want to win. I think that are the best. Unfortunately, I think this is going to come down to what it always comes down to. If the Ultra can squeeze in there, we might be able to get something potentially in the late lowers where they can sneak through and come back. But I feel like it's going to be the same old, same old. We're going to have LAT. We're going to have Faze. And then hopefully maybe potential we'll have that 3rd one. I would love, as much as I hate on Optic, I would love for them to make a deep run. It's going to be tough.
Usually go hard.
Yeah, starting that low on the bracket is going to be tough, but it also makes for a great story.
It does.
So, you have because now they're basically like the underdog. So if you have the underdog story, they will go crazy if they starting from the bottom. Now we're here.
Yeah.
And the Green Wall would love that. But I wouldn't love that.
Yeah.
So for me, LAT all the way. I think they should be able to handle this one. The only person they got to deal with is Celium and the boys.
That's a lot to deal with.
That is a lot to deal with.
For me,
They handled them here, though.
Yeah,
They
sure.
handled them here.
For me, it is fortunate because I do think Ultra got a little bit of a break here. And the cards did definitely fall in their favor. I think there's a reality to where we are looking at an Ultra and a Heretics with the potential to make a run. Surge looks shell-shocked. I don't know how you can recover from that. I hope they can. I'm not saying this because I don't want them to. I'm saying this because I don't expect them to, because they look bad. Like real bad.
They did look bad this week.
And I just don't know how you bounce back with there's no warm-up matches. There's no let's run a little mini season in the middle. It's, your next match matters. So I do think there's a reality to where we get to see a little bit of maybe a Heretics LAT rematch. We get to see a little bit of an Ultra Faze matchup. And those, while statistically not favorable for the underdog, you wouldn't be surprised if both teams ended up winning. If you said that, hey, it's Ultra Heretics in winners final, you probably wouldn't be the most surprised, because LA lost to Heretics in the early in the bracket already in the last event. Ultra are known to do some crazy stuff, so like I don't think that's copium. I think it's copium to think that one of those teams don't go to the losers bracket and come back and beat them. So I do think we'll get some really good games out of it. I do candidly hope that Optic make a little bit of a deep run, and this is obviously very selfish, but I hope that because it matters for viewership. If Optic is there, it means the world to COD, so for that reason, you want more people to see the thing. I think if Optic get auto double bounced, views will not be good, and that'll be unfortunate. I hope they do a Scump watch party or something. I put Scump on the desk, call it a day.
Well, hey, he was there, DreamHack, so I'm sure we'll definitely have him there at Champs doing this watch party thing, taking all the views.
100%, 100%. Speaking of taking all the views, though, we are going to hop into buy or sell, the best segment, obviously.
All right, starting off with our first buy or sell, we have a fun one here, which is standing airplane seats. Just when you thought airplanes couldn't get worse, here we have a new way for them to take all of our money and still make our experience crappy. So, are we buying or selling basically just slight crouching on an airplane seat for a 5-hour flight?
I'm buying this for a weird set of reasons.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, one, I don't think it's that bad. If it's sub 2 hours, whatever, I'd prefer to stand anyway. I don't like sitting for long periods of time. Two, I think we should consume a large portion of the planes with these standing seats, because people are going to hate this. I think categorically the internet does not love this. It would be cheaper. That's the only part that's better. Everything else is probably functionally worse. We need trains, not planes. So let's just make the planes worse, and we'll get the trains. That's what I'm buying.
Okay, very interesting. Obviously, this is an easy one, sell. To me, it's just another, there's got to be, I haven't done all the research, but I just know there's got to be some gimmick in there for, like, this is just better for them in some way.
Totally.
That, like,
More
frees
seats,
up
more money.
It's just like, it's not for our best interest. Sure, like you said, if it's a short flight, probably not that bad. But I just see some poor soul stuck there in a flight across America for 5.5 hours, just
hanging on
stuck
against a bus.
with hanging on with a slight slouch, sitting down there, and he's hating it.
Well, see, I think this is better, though. There was that design that came out a couple years ago where it's basically like one person sits here, then the other person sits here. But it's like the top person's butt is at the face of the bottom person's. There's no chance I'm going to be the lower guy. Like, none.
Nah,
I
not
think
at all.
this is better than that.
Sure, I'll give that one. Sure, I'll give it that
So
one.
the next one we want to talk about is Battlefront 2. Yes, Battlefront 2, the game that came out 8 years ago, just achieved its highest number of players ever on Steam. 8 years after this. The game's not been updated in 5 years. They're crediting a lot of this to Arc Raiders, I guess because it's a similar gameplay style, and I don't know, somehow maybe people want to go back. Game doesn't seem like it's in a bad state. A lot of people are really enjoying the game. Are you buying or selling that this game shouldn't have died?
Yeah, I'll definitely buy that for sure, 100%. Battlefront 2 was a fantastic game. EA just ruined it with their greed, with their terrible pay-to-win microtransactions. What otherwise was a fantastic game. And, you know, once the internet started mentioning stuff, it's like, yeah, after playing Arc Raiders and then playing Battlefront 2, it's like, yeah, they definitely feel very similar. It's a very similar third-person, over-the-shoulder view, the way your character moves, everything. It's all very similar. No wonder they're both fantastic games.
I'm going to sell this.
I knew it.
No, but the reason is because, like you said, EA killed this game. When this game came out, it was cheeks. Like, not the gameplay. Like, shooting and the things and Star Wars were incredible. But you basically have to pay to get the upgraded card, and then you got to get a bunch of the upgraded cards. And once you got a bunch of the upgraded cards, well, then your Boba Fett's better than my Boba Fett, and then your Boba Fett can just nuke the whole field. It's not even close, and it's like, this was so stupid. I mean, I played it at launch, pumped, excited. Game looks great, felt great, until there's a dude that is way more stronger than you because you spent $200. It's like, this is dumb. Then sure,
don't digress.
Maybe it took them 2 or 3 years to fix it, but hey, that ship has sailed. Make it again. I don't care if it's the same game. Just fix your microtransaction, re-release it.
It's not like they're making money from it anymore anyway.
Yeah, that's if it was community driven and there was community updates and it was like open servers or whatever, I'd be more interested in paying a random person to fix the game than pay EA.
I feel that, but I mean, you can get the game. It's on EA Play, Game Pass. You can pay $5 for it. So everybody playing it now, they're not getting no money from it. I mean, I'm sure that probably has a shop, but anyway, speaking of shops and other games and EA specifically, Battlefield 6, been a lot of leaks. Obviously, we talked about it before, video coming out and things like that. It's getting closer and closer to release, but these last batch of leaks here, we got what looks like potentially being a Battle Royale mode in Battlefield 6. So my question is, are we buying another BR from Battlefield or selling, get this out of the game, not needed?
Hello, my name is Dylan Sinnott, and I am a hypocrite. I'm buying this. Battlefield 3 sniping is the best of any game ever, and it's not close, bar none, best experience. You give me that in a BR, that is exactly what I'd want in a BR. My problem with PUBG, H1, even when it was a DayZ mod, all that other stuff, Fortnite's not even in the spectrum of this, is like, they just don't feel like games that I want to like play as a shooter. The Call of Duty one, it's combat's arcadey and it's fun for a good time, not a long time. Battlefield 3 and 4 were the two that, like, dude, they sucked me in. And then even Battlefield Trench Warfare, when we went back to the old school, like, those games felt like you could play them for hours because the progression system made sense, because the battles are always fun and unique. I think that if anybody can pull off a BR that becomes the BR, it's that universe. The only problem is it's EA. And that's what's like...
It's a big problem.
I definitely feel hypocritical for this, but it's like, you made this game that was so good. Just get the suits out of the room. If there's no suits in the room, it's got a great chance.
Maybe. For me, it's a sale. They've done the BR already. It was terrible, probably the worst out of any BR available, which is funny, yes, coming from their game, great shooting mechanics, everything. It's basically the story of like Halo should do a BR. Oh, it'd be the perfect game for it or whatever. But it's like, no, you can have the perfect formula. It don't matter. EA will find a way to ruin it. It's best to just take it out and not have it be a stain.
Absolutely. The next thing that we want to hop into is back to DreamHack. Back to Halo at DreamHack. Command Station became the first ever female to win an HCS FFA at a LAN event. Is this a big deal? Buy or sell?
Yeah, buy. I think it's a big deal. It's great for her. Fantastic for her. She won that free-for-all. I read that she'd been doing a lot of practicing and stuff and competed and stuff like this before, and she was finally able to get a win here. And you know, a lot of other women are supportive of that, and I think it's all just a nice little wholesome thing to bring them up, and after, especially with all the other controversies and stuff going on with like the Counter-Strike Impact stuff and things of that nature.
Totally. I'm going to sell this, but not because I don't think it's cool, not because I don't think you did a great job. I just think this should be commonplace. It shouldn't be something where we have to talk about the accomplishments of women. It shouldn't be where we have to talk about the accomplishments of people who we don't think can do a thing doing a thing. This should be commonplace. The fact that it's the first time it happened to be is, I would say, more depressing than impressive. I'm surprised this hasn't happened before. I don't think in video games necessarily the skill gap between men and women is that different. I hope she wins again. Hope she does a lot. Hope she becomes such a big deal that we never talk about it again because she's just a great Halo player. It feels weird to have the caveat of she's a great Halo player that is a girl. She should just be a great Halo player. That's fine.
Wow, what a woke take from the man to my right. Very appreciative of that.
I guess.
May the liberals sing in joy. All right, so speaking of...
I think this is the opposite of that.
We got Simple. Yeah, so he played for Faze. Unfortunately, didn't make the tournament, but his debut did some big numbers. Bigger than anything that happened over the weekend while we were at DreamHack. And whether that's good or bad, only time can tell. But so the buy or sell really is it a buy as if Counter-Strike needs simple, needs that viewership, needs somebody like that to be able to keep the esport going, or sell, nah, he's already been gone, Counter-Strike's doing fine, don't need it.
I'm going to say a buy. I don't think Counter-Strike needs it, but I think esports does. And it's the same thing with Optic Gaming. You want Optic at Champs. You want Optic there to boost the viewership in Call of Duty because an Optic story is better than anybody else's story. At the end of the day, that's how it is. I think Simple is very similar. If Simple were to come in this major, make it all the way to the finals, end Vitality streak, take down Donk, but most importantly, defeat Nico in the finals of a major and prevent Nico from winning one, it would be a literal movie. Like, that's the only player that it would be a movie for. It has to be Simple, one in the name, one in the game, biggest person out there. And it's like, I don't think CS is fine without him. CS didn't need him to come back. But he individually can make esports greater. And moments like that would do it.
This is true. And that's why for me it's buy as well. It's pretty much a similar boat of like Counter-Strike is fine without him and will continue to grow without him. But it makes for a good storyline. So having him go and do those things, make a run at the major, things like that would be cool, would be dope. And that's, look, he's Simple.
He is.
Let the man go play. I want to see Zawu versus Simple.
Totally.
Let's make it happen.
100%. And it's like, we got to get him on land. That's the most important thing. I wish we would have got him this weekend, but unfortunately didn't quite sneak in. I think the crowd would have loved him.
Oh, dude, it would have been crazy.
It would have been crazy. The next thing we want to hop into is Google. It's basically terrifying all of us now. You're watching this most probably on YouTube, which is a Google product, but Google currently has created VEO3. VEO3 is basically capable of creating this video with audio, and I'm going to be honest, in watching them, there are subtle tells that they're different, like this skill diff text right here in the middle of the screen probably wouldn't look as pretty. Other than that, it's probably the same product, which is absolutely terrifying. Are you buying or selling VEO3 is good for humanity?
Nah, that's a big sell. That's a big sell easily because, like, I tell you, we didn't even need video AI and things like that to be able for people to mass misinform people with videos that are out of context or not even from this decade, and people will believe it. So now we have these incredibly detailed and only going to get better things that will completely fool your grandmother, your grandfather, anybody that's not familiar with technology will just take these at face value, and who knows what the internet can do with that.
And it's even probably normal people too. It's the scary part. For me, it's an auto sell. Like, I mean, I think AI is cool for a whole lot of things. When it comes to starting ideas, when it comes to putting you in the direction of something, when it comes to helping you with the script, helping you come up with an idea. Like if you wanted to create a logo for your company, I think AI is a great starting point to find that logo. I don't think that's the best final product. Maybe if you want to use that for a couple weeks until you can afford to pay an artist, sure, makes sense for that capacity. I think it gets scary when it's in the concept of what I've been seeing on the internet is people using this to fake real life interviews where you're asking people in the street weird questions. You just in your head come up with a crazy scenario, then you just make it out however you want it to be. And it's like, we quickly get into a disillusion of how humans act, and it's not the reality of how humans actually act. And that to me is absolutely terrifying. Yep,
well, you know what else is terrifying? Grown adults acting like children.
It is.
That is terrifying. So, Universal, Epic Universe opening, cool little theme park area, and basically we have a bunch of grown adults lining up, running in as it's opening, people running into stuff, knocking each other out over to see Harry Potter, Super Mario.
Probably took PTO for this.
Yeah, like this 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds running to amusement parks and pushing kids out of the way. Get out of my way, Junior. I need to see Bowser. Like, are we buying are we buying this or are we selling this? So it should be pretty easy.
There could be a really dark, twisted buy on this, but I'm going to sell it for the safety reasons.
Yeah, I don't want to hear
We're selling it for the safety reasons. If you, I don't know, I'm all about people being passionate about things. That's a great element. If it's, if it's Black Friday and you're trying to get the only 55-inch TV in the store on sale, I at least get that for a financial decision. everyone is going to see Bowser. It's not going anywhere. It's probably going to be there for the next 20 years. If you don't have kids today and you plan on having kids, you will probably be able to still take your kids to that park. So I don't get the excitement of being first. I don't get the excitement of the hyper consumerism around it. I also don't get the concept of sharing it. Like, if I ever go there, because at some point I'm certain my wife will make me go there, I don't want to know what it's like. I want it to be new for the first time. I don't want to see the thing. Like, it just spoils the whole piece. It's like, I don't understand why you're social media in it. I don't understand any of it. Maybe I'm just the speaker of the coalition of the lizard people, and I don't get human emotions, but I don't know. This is a quick sell for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a quick sell for me too as well. This is not the same place, but like I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard of Disney adults. It's just very creepy. It's very scary. There's people like that are adults, basically still acting like children. I get it. We all have our quirks. We're all different in our own ways, but like, let's just handle this like adults. Walk, behave, let the children have the fun experiences. That's what they're for. They're there for. We're there too to have a little bit of fun, but we know how to act, sell, do better.
I'm not sure we know how to act. I'm going to be honest. I don't think
You're right, we don't.
So that is all for our basically DreamHack infused episode. Any takeaways, any final things you want to call out for the weekends, any shout outs, anything else?
Yeah, shout out to Texas. It's a nice place, a lot of nice restaurants and beautiful places to go there and places to hang out. It was real nice. Nice place.
Yeah. Shout out to Eli and LVT for the awesome Halo stuff. Envy, obviously, for being incredible. Nick for doing a great job over there. And then Terry Black's or Black Terry's, I forget which it is. The barbecue restaurant.
Terry Black's Barbecue.
Absolutely great. That was the best food the whole time. If you're in Texas, for sure go there. Until then, have a wonderful day, and we will see you guys in the next one. That's weird.